Welcome all. This lecture is on Module 2 of Traffic Engineering, which mainly emphasize on traffic studies. Let us look at module contents. So we will be discussing more on various traffic studies, their objectives, application, methods of data collection, data analysis, result interpretation, and various statistical applications. Towards the end, we may also introduce concepts like capacity, level of service, its significance and applications in transportation engineering. Before we discuss about various traffic studies, let us understand the need or importance of such studies. As we all know, our quality of life or living standards have considerably improved by the introduction of various transportation facilities. Yet there are issues, to name a few, the traffic congestions which we are facing, the delay, the safety perspectives, the number of accidents, all these are major concerns. So for a traffic engineer, it is must to adequately collect the data and identify the locations in which these kind of issues are prevailing and even the severity or the extent of these issues. So this is possible by performing various traffic studies. So traffic studies are intended to carry out to analyze the traffic characteristics. By doing so, we would be in a position to provide better geometric design features, better traffic control measures, devices for an efficient and safe traffic movement. Now, if we look into the traffic studies, we can generally, broadly group them into three categories. It can be one at an inventory level, where we will be collecting information on the existing information. For example, what is the street width, available parking spaces on a road. If for in case for a public transport, we would like to know about what are the existing routes. So this is something called as by doing an inventory survey. So we will be going to the site, reconnaissance survey will be doing and collecting the inventory informations. The second thing is like administrative studies, that is by collecting the engineering records which are available with the stakeholders. So by looking into those information, one can gather informations on the prevailing conditions. The third one, which is most important and critical, which is called dynamic studies, as the name indicates, dynamic. So we are aware the fact that the traffic movement is not constant throughout a day at different locations at different time, it's varying. So we need to perform studies which will reflect the traffic characteristics under various operational conditions. So this is the major one, the most important feature one need to understand. Perform traffic studies to capture the traffic characteristics are under various operational conditions. We are now going to discuss about various dynamic traffic studies which are quite common in traffic engineering. So we'll start with speed studies. Speed is generally considered as a quality measurement of travel. So here is a point you need to understand. Quality measurement. So generally a traffic measurements can be either be based on quantity or it can be either based on quality. When we say quantity measurement, it talks more about the volume. So you can say, for example, if I say 200 vehicles traveled in 1 hour. So that is 200 vehicles per hour. That's a traffic volume. Or there are 100 vehicles which occupied on 1 kilometer stretch of road. So it talks about the accumulation of vehicles which speaks density of that road. So there are parameters which we consider to describe the quantity measurement of travel. On the other side, if I traveled this road on an average of 50 km per speed, so that you can say that 50 km per hour, which describes my quality measurement. So speed is generally considered as a quality measurement of travel, and we define it as the rate of motion, that everyone knows it. You will mathematically you will calculate the speed by taking the distance traveled in its respective unit, either in meter or kilometer per unit of time. So t in seconds you can take, so it is meter per second or kilometer per hour is generally the unit considered. The speed studies are very important in traffic engineering, but what is most important to know that the speed of vehicles will vary with respect to time and space. So to narrate this, let's take the two sketches provided on the slide. So the first case illustrate measuring the speed of vehicles when they cross a given reference line. So when they pass that point, we are measuring at that spot, at that location, what was the speed of the vehicles. Whereas in the second case, we are measuring the speed of the vehicle maintained when they are covering d distance. So with respect to space, there is a difference because slow moving vehicles may they take more time in the stretch, or their speed will be quite different compared to the fast moving vehicles, right? So you need to consider these kind of variations, you need to represent it. So there are different types of speeds that are generally used in traffic engineering. We'll get into those details little later. Now there are if we look into the speed categories, generally, there are two types of speed studies will be performing in traffic engineering. One is called as the spot speed study. The second one is called as speed and delay study. Let me narrate it with an example. If I ask you what was your average speed of the journey from home to college? So before answering, you may have to think about it. Average speed I am asking. So suppose think that from your home to college, scenario 1. The road is at ideal conditions, you are able to move freely. So in that case, the speed of your vehicle will be quite similar to your desired speed. But that may not be the case when it comes to a scenario of real conditions where you may be getting obstructed or getting delayed with many other aspects. So what is that? So think that in some stretch of your road there will be free flow condition, but at some stretches there will be too much of intensity of traffic, so you are getting delayed by that. But at some stretches you are getting stuck in with the traffic signal, so there will be lot of time you will be waiting for a movement. It can be due to some of the control measures or it can be due to congestions. So it can be any type of it. So this waiting time, let's call it as delay. So if you are interested in knowing this kind of speed and delay, so different stretches here will have different speeds covered. So we need to think about that, so even these kind of variations have to be brought in. So this kind of studies where in which you will be studying the actual speed when you are running, or on an average including all the delays, what was the speed. So we can represent in various ways. So the general category of speed studies are either spot speed studies, or one can think of doing a speed and delay studies. So for this session we will be mainly looking into the spot speed. So what is a spot speed? As the case sketch 1 which shows, you are measuring the speed at a given point. At that instant when the vehicle was crossing that point, what was the speed of the vehicle? Say for first vehicle when they cross it we measured, second vehicle when it crossed that point we measured. So this is what is called as a spot speed, instantaneous speed. Alright. So let's get into the details of spot speed. As defined, spot speed is the instantaneous speed of a vehicle at a specified location. This is the most important part of the definition. Instantaneous speed, yes, it makes sense, but at a specified location. That means whatever the speed characteristics you are going to identify by such study you perform is valid only for that traffic and environmental conditions that exist at the time of study. That is the most important thing. Alright, because at that particular location, under that environmental conditions, prevailing environmental condition, what was the speed characteristics? That would be quite different from another location. Now let's look into details of spot speed studies. What are the objectives, applications of doing such kind of spot speed study? The basic understanding here is that you need to know about the speed distribution. What is speed distribution? What is the, if say, there are n vehicles going on it, what is the speed with which a vehicle stream is going at that particular location? what is the minimum speeds, what is the maximum speed vehicles are taking, on an average, what is like 50% of vehicle, what is the speed with which you are going. So to study such kind of speed characteristics or speed trends typically at one location, one can think of performing spot speed. And it also helps us establishing parameters for traffic operation and control. So when we describe this traffic studies, we said, it helps us to establish certain parameters which helps for safe and efficient movement of traffic, right? So we need to have some kind of control. Say for example, speed limit for a road. How do you design it? So all these are, direct application of the spot speed study. So 85th percentile speed of the spot speed is generally considered as the speed limit. We'll get into those when we see like, data analysis and interpretation. But for the time being, understand that by performing such studies, we are in a position to establish certain parameters for us. Parameters can be for speed limits, parameters can be related to the speed zones, or what is the passing zone, length of it, and where the proper location of regulatory warning guide signs, all will be the applications of it. And also help us to check the adequacy of the geometric design features of highways. So the major geometric elements, if you take radius of curvature, and when we talk about the curves, the length of the curve, so all these, if you look into even the equation, you can see the speed is one of the important parameter over there. And this kind of speed inputs we will get it after conducting the spot speed studies. Also, one can perform spot speed studies if you want to have a comparison. What is that comparison? Before and after. So think that there is an overspeeding on one particular location, and we have introduced some kind of an interventions. Maybe as simple as a speed breaker, a speed hump, we are installing it, and just want to see the efficiency. After that, there is a considerable difference in the speed reduction. So many of these enforcement programs, we can check its effect by doing a before and after spot speed studies. Also, we can relate spot speed studies with respect to the crash or accidents, and to see, evaluate the conditions. So assessing the roadway safety condition, evaluating and verifying the speed problems, speed as a contributor to vehicle crashes. For example, in a road, like, there has been accident potential is small, then we can conduct such kind of spot speed studies and see, like, what is the likely speed with which most of the vehicles are going. So is that above than its speed limit? So how it is been contributing to the vehicle crashes. So those kind of accident studies also it is applicable. So these are general applications of doing the. Let's discuss about the stepwise approach for conduction of spot speed. It starts with organizing your study plan, selection of site, the sample size required, the duration of your survey, which is the data collection methodology, and how do we analyze the data. The location selection for a spot speed study generally depends on the purpose of your data collection. If you are interested to collect a basic data collection, then locations can be selected which represents different operational traffic conditions. If you are interested in more looking into the speed trend or a speed trend analysis, then you may have to select the locations carefully. Please note that those locations should be avoided when there are chances of change in speed. For example, coming close to an intersection, people may reduce their speed. And if there is a curve road, people may reduce their speed. So we should not perform traffic spot speed studies under those locations. So ideally, mid-block of urban highways or straight level section of rural highways are ideal places to be considered. But if there is any specific problem that has to be addressed, those location has to be selected. Whatever be the selection of roads or the sites, please make sure that the data are unbiased data which we are reporting, and the drivers are unaware of the equipments and such a study is performing over there. Otherwise, it may reflect on them and they may have the tendency to reduce. Time and duration of spot speed again depends on the purpose of the study. If the intention is to collect either basic data or to study in detail about the speed patterns, then one may have to ideally conduct the spot speed studies when the traffic is free flowing, or essentially off-peak hour would be an ideal. But if the intention is more towards road safety assessment, accident analysis, then one may have to consider a longer duration, generally considered greater than an hour. It should not be limited less than 1 hour, and the sample size should be adequate, and it should not be less than 30 vehicles. Now we will talk about how do we select the sample size for spot speed studies. Sample size determination is very important because the mean of the collected sample data is represented as the true mean value for all the vehicles at that location. So the accuracy of this assumption mainly depends on number of vehicles in the sample collected. More and more the samples, yes, there is greater probability that whatever the calculated mean is not significantly different from the population or the true mean. But the problem arises when you are selecting an inadequate sample. So how much is the minimum sample size required? It actually depends on the precision level which is desired. So precision level is generally defined as the degree of confidence that the error of a produced estimate, in our case it is our calculated mean, and this sampling error will fall in a desired fixed range. So we can assume, like, what is the confidence level are you looking at? Are you looking at a 68.3 or 86 or 90% or 95%, 95.5, or even it can be of 99.7. So accordingly, one need to define the sample size. So the basic assumption, we do have an equation, but the basic assumption here is that we assume the speed studies or the speed to follow a normal distribution. Alright, so using the properties of the normal distribution, one can develop a relation, and that is what is stated. N, which is the number of sample size, equal to Z sigma by D the whole square, where Z corresponds to the constant corresponding to that particular confidence interval which we can have the assumption on it, and sigma, which is a standard deviation, and D is what is the allowable or acceptable error in the mean calculation. Say I'm saying like 1.5 kilometer per hour is something, the error which I can accept it at a confidence interval of 95%. We can work out what is the ideal minimum number of samples required, and make sure that whatever the sample size we will be selecting, it is greater than this minimum number of samples. We can also have, using the confidence interval, we can express the ranges also. What should be the range in which the sample mean should be falling in? So, wherever the mean speed plus or minus sigma, which Z, which is the constant corresponding to the specified confidence, and standard deviation. So if we can actually calculate the confidence intervals too, lower limit and upper limit, or rather a range. Now let's look into identifying the methods for conducting spot speed studies. So there are two major methods. One can think about collecting the data manually, manual methods, or automatic methods. So automatic methods, we use some kind of detectors or sensors, radar based. So videography, many kind of applications can be brought in. So let's first talk about manual methods. Manual methods are generally preferred for a short span. When it's like a short stretch study length will be considered, because we are doing it manually. That's only limitations here. So here we will be considering a trap. So where we will be observing a vehicle entry into the trap and the vehicle exit from the trap. So in the diagram you can see that, and what we need is that we need observers, a single or two persons would be ideal, and they should have a stopwatch. So what is a stopwatch? So we will see when the time the approaching vehicle start entering into the trap, we will just start the timing and we'll note down the time, and when the vehicle leaves we will note the time. So the time difference we will be getting, and the distance of the study length is known to us, so distance by time we'll get the speed of it. So this is how the method is. That's why it is a direct timing method. So in the first picture you can see here that I have marked only one observer. You can do it either keeping one observer at any one of the points. So here at the exit, or you can think of keeping two observers, one at entry as well as one at exit. But there are some kind of limitations with respect to this, because if we have one observer, there may be some error of like parallax error, the time in which it actually crosses and when he note down the start operating the stopwatch. And when there are two observers, there may be some kind of difference in their reaction time of two observers. So these are some kind of limitations, human limitation with respect to the data entry. So there are other methods which is like eliminating our human errors, which is mainly the parallax error. We can think of by introducing some kind of a device, which is something called as an inoscope, or in other words it's called as a mirror box. So it's a L-shaped device. You can see a sketch over there, which is open at both the ends, and there is a mirror set at 45-degree angles to the arms of the instrument. So one can, what this instrument does is that the instrument is placed directly opposite to the first reference point. So the observer stands at the exit. Alright, so he will have the stopwatch. So rather when he sees because since he is standing at the exit point, the error associated with the first entry point, that is at the entry point, can be eliminated if he is looking into the inoscope. So this instrument bends the line of sight of the observer so that it is perpendicular to the path of the vehicle, and that way one can eliminate the parallax error. Alright, now we can think of incorporating even two inoscopes both at entry and exit point, and we can think of observer in the middle so that he can parallelly look into both the inoscope at entry as well as at exit point. Now, if you look into these kind of methods, the major limitation is that whatever we are doing, make sure that the driver is not aware of it. So if driver is aware of it, it may affect its traffic speed. So that is one thing generally considers as some of the limitations. Now moving towards automatic method, as I said, like you can use some sensors or detectors, anything. So one popular method is pneumatic. Old popular method is pneumatic road tubes. These are something pneumatic rubber tubes which will be laid perpendicular to the direction of travel. So what happens when the vehicle moves over, there will be an impulse created and that will be transmitted to the counter. So you can see like at a short distance you can lay two tubes, so the entry and exit there may be like some kind of impulse will be created. This impulse that would be sent to the counter and that would be taken care. So we can find out the time elapsed as the same way which we did for the observer. We can find out entry time and the exit time, and the distance is known to you between the two tubes, so we can calculate the speed of the vehicle. We can use these kind of methods not only for speed, even for the volume of vehicles. The other popular method is called as inductive loops, single or multiple loops. So these are generally called as intrusive. When we say intrusive, you may have to dig the road surface slightly and then getting it stuck with the road. So we will be pasting it to the road. So that is like intrusive methods. So here in this case, a rectangular wire loop buried under the roadway surface, which will be again connected to the controller cabinet, which houses an electronic unit. So when the vehicle passes, since it is an electronic unit, so there will be a disturbance in the electric field, right? So this change in the potential will create as an impulse and it's sent to the controller. So there will be a count on it. So here the issues related to that, human errors, whatever we are dealing with is less, but it may affect, if the driver is getting noticed, it may affect the driver behavior, and maybe some kind of, compared to manual methods, maybe kind of expensive because you may have to dig the roads. The other method, and which is widely used nowadays, is the radar speed meters. So we can typically use the radar waves to measure the speed of the vehicle. So it works on the Doppler effect. So there may be an emitted radar wave and they get reflected on the vehicles and they will come back. So this change in frequencies between the emitted and the reflected wave is proportional to the speed of the oncoming vehicle. So there are two main ways generally it is been practiced. One can be like a control based like a radar gun, which manually somebody can operate it. So there is a moving vehicle, somebody wants to find out a speed of particular vehicles, you can shoot your radar gun and the display of the radar gun will show you using the Doppler effect what is the speed of that vehicle. And the second one is like using the side fire radar sensors. So what makes here is that the angle between the direction of the moving vehicle and the line joining center of the transmitter and the vehicle, that has to be aligned. So this is typically one of the snapshot that the website link has been shown in the previous slide. So one can see how the speed line side fire radar works. So on the display you can see like when a vehicle moves, what is the speed with which it is moving over there. And the other popular method is something called as video tech image processing. Like you can use videography, fix a camera wherever you want to cover the speed, and use your computers for the digitization of the data, and later you can extract the data from using softwares. So this is typically a snapshot taken from another website, which is data from sky. You can go to the website and see it. So you can see like even all the data, not only the count, not only the speed, deceleration rate, what is the deceleration or the acceleration rate, whether the vehicle is stationary, all those details are nowadays possible to extract real. Next we will be talking about data presentation and analysis. Data presentation is very important. Assume that you have collected around 500 samples. This 500 individual observation looking into one by one is a quite tedious task. So we may have to present in a very convenient manner. Generally tabular column wise or graphical representations are very much opted for spot speed studies. And also based on our assumption, because though we are considering some 500 samples, 500 observations as our sample size, we are going to talk about how the speed characteristics for the entire population at that study site, right? So it is therefore necessary for us to use some of the statistical method to analyze the data, and we are going to look into first how to arrange the data. So generally we use frequency histograms, frequency distribution curve, or cumulative frequency curve. Let's talk about it. So just have a look at this slide. This tells you I have done a spot speed study of 86 and 86 observations have been made. So car number 1, it corresponds to a speed of 35.1 miles per hour, and car number 86, which is my 86th observation and which records a speed of 53.4. So if we individually look into the data, we can see like how the speeds are varying. All right, but not on a scale in the sense like we can suitably classify into related speed groups. So let's see how do we do that. So first we can arrange them into a distribution table, which is generally known as the frequency distribution table. So if you look here, I have represented the individual speeds into now the speed class. So the class interval, the length of it is based on looking into your observation data points. So I have seen the data like it is varying from a minimum of 34 and it is a maximum of 66. Say so a class of the 1.9 has been taken, that is what is chosen as the interval. So again I'm saying it depends on the data which you have collected. So arrange your data in a specific sequence or an order into the class, speed class, and identify the mid value of the class for each of the range. Convert that into its center value and see how many vehicles have been observed in that particular range. So that is your frequency. Number of observed vehicles with those speed classes is your frequency. So if you arrange the data in with respect to frequency of vehicles and the speed class and related speed range, that is what is called as a frequency distribution table. All right. Now, don't worry about too much about what it is right now. We'll explain one by one. And with this information, one can plot an histogram. So what is an histogram? It's basically a chart, and whatever we have discussed in our column 2 and 3 here, which is typically your frequency, observed frequency, yes, and as well the vehicle speeds, the speed range. One can take the mid value of it as your y-axis, x-axis, sorry, and on the y-axis the observed frequency, and draw the chart which gives you the histogram. Now from the histogram, we have covered table column 2 and column 3 of the table. Next, convert this individual observations into percentage. So when I look into the data, individual observations, I have made 86, right? So the frequency, some frequency of it will give, the sum of all the frequencies should give me 86. Now find out what is the percentage of observation. So when I say the first class, considering the mid value 35, there are 2 vehicles. So 2 divided by 86 into 100, convert it into percentage, 2.3. Now use this percentage of observation for corresponding speed, and you can finally convert this into a curve which is called as a frequency distribution curve. So one can see that what is the vehicle speed and the percentage frequency. Now convert this into a cumulative frequency distribution curve. So what is a cumulative frequency distribution curve? Keeping the first value as the same, then first and the second you can add it up and represent as the second and plus third, so add accordingly and you will get into a final sum of 100%. So that's something called as a cumulative frequency distribution curve. So this curve finally we are converting into the cumulative frequency distribution, where y-axis would be the cumulative frequency, x-axis would be same as the vehicle speed. Now from here you can get many of this information. So we'll be discussing one by one in detail, but as of now have an understanding about how do we represent the data. So through a frequency distribution table which help us to understand, draw some of the graphical methods, representations like histogram, frequency distribution curve and cumulative frequency. Having seen the various forms of data presentation, let us now look into the data analysis part. So the popular descriptive statistics which are used to represent the speed characteristics or analyze the data are like finding out the average speed based on the samples which is collected, and the standard deviation and variance, and some other terminologies which we will in detail discuss in the coming slides, which is median speed or model speed, ith percentile speed, pace. So let's see average speed. Average speed is the arithmetic mean of all the observed speeds or in the sample selected, right? So for example, take the same example of 86 observations. So in this 86 observation data, we are calculating what is the mean of it. So for that, we can use this formula, which is the frequency Fi into the mid value of the speed, because we have considered the range and then to the mid value. So multiply Fi and Ui, take the summation, divide by sum of all the observations. So here in this case, average can be calculated sum of Fi Ui. So you can see like this column 4, which will give me 4260 divided by, I have 86 observations. So this divided by 86, which will give me the number of what is the average speed of the sample, which is considered as the true mean value for the entire population. Alright, the next one is median, or generally called as 50th percentile speed. So what is that? Median means what the speed at which 50% of the vehicles follows. So if we need to have a look at the percentile, 50th percentile. So it is the speed that equally divides the distribution of spot speed. That means 50% of observed speeds higher than the median. Similarly, 50% of observed speeds lower than median. So 50% of the vehicles moves with what speed? How do you get it? So we know the percentile. So from the y-axis on the cumulative frequency distribution curve, extend it to the curve, and from there where it touches, drop down to the x-axis. So the x-axis will give you what is the speed. So this is median speed or 50th percentile speed. The next terminology is the model speed. So model speed is generally defined as the single value of speed that is most likely to occur. Single value of speed. This is generally identified from the frequency distribution curve. So what we will do is that below shows the frequency distribution curve. From the top, a vertical line will be dropped. This is the peak of it, right? So from this peak we will drop a vertical line, and this means that the speed, that corresponding speed, is called as the model speed, which is considered as the speed that is likely to occur. The maximum speed which is likely to occur is that particular speed. All right. So I hope you might be able to understand like why we presented the data in various forms, so that each of the descriptive statistics, some can be derived from the cumulative frequency distribution curve, few requires histogram or the frequency distribution curve itself. Now coming to standard deviation and variance, one can calculate how much from the mean data each point, how much there is the spread out. So which we can use the equation, the same equations like each of the observation minus the mean, the whole square, summation divided by n minus 1, because we are dealing with the sample n minus 1. Similarly, if you know the standard deviation, one can calculate the variance too. The next is another important terminology which is generally called as a pace. So pace is defined as the 10 kilometer per hour increment in speed. Since I am representing in kilometer per hour, please note that I have defined for 10 kilometer per hour, whereas this is showing in miles per hour. Just for the time being, just consider the difference in the unit, whatever you are considered, that is 10 increment. So wherever the 10 increment in speed, where highest percentage of drivers is observed. Alright, so what we will do is that we will look into the frequency distribution curve. Alright, in this frequency distribution curve, we need to start from the top and see like where I am getting the 10 kilometer per, or whatever the units. So for the time being, let me use the 10 kilometer per hour. So where you are getting the 10 kilometer per hour. So probably over here I may get, if I drop down into its x-axis, I can see that there is a 10 difference, 44 to 54. That means the difference is 10. So in this increment, 10 kilometer increment, where I am getting. So we may have to, ideally look into it and identify the points, corresponding points on the curve, and extend down into your cumulative speeds, cumulative frequency distribution curve, and where it is touching, that's corresponding, percentile you can calculate. Alright, because we are interested not into the speed here. We are interested to see like where is the highest percentage on a difference of 10 kilometer per hour or on a 10 difference in speed unit. Alright, so here it corresponds on 44, it corresponds to 14 percentage, whereas at 54 it is giving a cumulative frequency of 87, where highest percentage is there. So 14% to 87%. So the difference you are taking, you can understand that this identifies the most area, the highest percentage of vehicles. For that, we may have to use both the percentage frequency distribution curve as well as cumulative percentage distribution frequency curve too. Now coming to the last one, which are desired speed values. So in the beginning we described as the objective of spot speed study is to help us to establish certain speed limits, say for example design speed limits, or help us to come with some kind of traffic control and design parameters, right? So how do we incorporate that? By doing so, with the cumulative frequency curves, there are certain percentiles which have been identified, which directly goes to the application of this establishing the control parameters. So generally the ith percentile, 98th percentile speed is to check the geometric design elements. Alright, so one can check the accuracy or adequacy of geometric design elements with the 98th percentile speed. And if you want to set a speed limit, then 85th speed is considered as the speed limit for regulation. So what is the meaning of it when we say 85% or when we say 98%? We meant that 85%, the speed, corresponding speeds, let's identify this as 58 kilometer per hour. So 85%, the speed at or below this, 85% of the vehicles are moving at a speed of 58 or below than that. That means only 15% of the vehicles are exceeding this speed limit. Alright, so there is something called 15 percentile, which is generally considered as a lower limit for a slow moving vehicle. So one can think of regulating, the upper limit and lower limit of speed limit based on this percentile concept. And for generally for the design perspective of especially highway geometric, 98th percentile speed would be considered. Alright, so this actually calls up on the analysis of spot speed studies. Let's work on numericals. So there will be couple of numericals which we will go through it. So the first case is spot speed studies conducted. The speed range is given, number of observed vehicles is given, and you are supposed to calculate the upper and lower values or the speed limits for installing speed regulation signs. Alright. And the second question is find out the design speed for checking geometric and the speed dispersion. So you need to first recollect what are the speed, which is the speed percentile I should consider for an upper speed limit, lower speed limit, at the same time design speed. So the first thing, when you get the data, immediately construct your frequency distribution table, histogram, frequency distribution curve, and cumulative frequency distribution curve. So the same is shown here. So you can see the speed range, the mid value has been taken 0 to 10 because it has been given to you. In case if it has not been given, you may have to find out a speed range and consider the mid speed. Observe the frequencies which is already given. Now calculate frequency into percentage frequency. So 12 divided by 850 would give you into 100 would give you 1.41. Then this into cumulative. So this first value we will retain as it is. Now 1.41 plus 2.12 will give you 3.53. 3.53 plus 8 will give you 11.53. And make sure it is 100%. Alright. And draw your histogram. I am not showing the histogram and frequency distribution curve, which you can plot by yourself, and just see the cumulative frequency distribution curve. Alright. Here the questions are, the first question is for your speed limit, lower and upper. So lower is nothing but your 15 because that's the slow moving vehicles, right? And 85% would be the upper limit. So that means only 15% will go beyond that. So we need 85 as our upper limit. So just find out 85% and 15% from x-axis, meet the curve and drop down to your y-axis and see which are the speeds. And for the geometric design, always remember it is the 98th percentile. So one can identify what is the speed corresponding to 98th percentile. Alright, so I'm just showing the values. Upper speed limit, which is 60 km per hour, lower speed limit 30, and 98th is something called as 84. So in addition, there is something has been asked, speed dispersion, which is generally considered as the when we set up lower and higher limit, which is 85th and 15th, how the speed has been dispersed or distributed between these two. So if we take the difference of it, one can find out what is the dispersion of the speed, which is again 30 km per hour, the difference of it. Now let's look into another type of problem where we'll use, whether check of our adequacy of sample size and everything. So using the spot speed data given in the following table collected from a freeway size operating under free flow condition, plot frequency cumulative curves. Alright, this is clear now. Obtain the median speed, modal speed, pace, percentage of vehicle in pace from these plots. Alright, then compute the mean and standard deviation and the confidence bounds on the estimate for the true mean speed of the underlying distribution with 95% confidence as well as 99.7% confidence Based on these results, compute the sample size needed to have a tolerance error of 1.5 km per hour at 95% confidence. So let's look into that also. The speed range is given, corresponding frequency is given. So first thing, we know by this time, like if we know the middle range, mid value, the frequency is given, convert into percentage frequency and then to cumulative frequency. All right. Then for statistical analysis, we may require, the product of Fi as well as Vi. So that is taken in this column. And for the analysis of our standard deviation, one can actually find out in the table, or you can use it for the, when it is calculated. So this is the plotted frequency distribution. See, it is not always a perfect bell-shaped curve you may expect it, because we generally assume it as a normal distribution, but it can get into, any kind of not a perfect bell-shaped curve, but the statistics would be used. So this is the percentile. So one can actually find out first one, 85th percentile, 50th percentile and 15th percentile. Okay, so let's look into the other statistics. They are asked you to calculate the mean, so which is generally taking the sum of Fi Vi. I hope that's clear. The mid value of speed and corresponding frequency, multiply it, take the summation, and there are how many samples? So 130. So we'll get the speed. Next is standard deviation, which is individual data minus its mean, the square into Fi. So that's what I said, like if you want, you can represent in your tabular column itself this particular, divided by n minus 1. Please recall the standard deviation we are calculating for the sample, not for the population. That's why n minus 1. Now the confidence bound, that means the range in which the estimate of the true mean speed under the of the underlying distribution. So please recall this equation. How do we calculate the limit, upper bound and the lower bound? So here they have asked for Z for two cases. One is 95% confidence, one is with 99.7% confidence. So the calculated mean is 45.77. all right, and Z for these two confidence interval, which we can get it from the table, which is 1.96 and 3 into standard deviation of the sample is already calculated. So what is that? Our confidence bound says my sample mean can vary in this, within this range, from, it can vary from plus or minus 22.93. So it can go 45 plus 22, that would be around 67, and minus would be giving you around, so it 23. So it can vary from a speed of 23 km per hour and it can go up to 67. This is the range if I am considering a 95% confidence. Whereas if I am considering a 99.7, then it vary from this one. So you can actually see where is the difference is coming. Now this is 35 plus or minus 35.1 km per hour. Alright, so this is how you will calculate the confidence bound. Now, how do we calculate the sample size? Please recall, sample size always depends on your degree of precision. So if you are, they have already told you which is the precision level, 95% of confidence with acceptable error of 1.5 km per hour. So substitute everything. 1.96 is the said value, corresponds to 95%, and 11.17, which is the calculator standard deviation, and acceptable error is given to us as 1.5. So that means ideally we should be collecting 234 samples. And if you just if you have observed in the beginning of this question, they have taken a sample which is less than 234, right? So what is the meaning of it? You need to interpret that the given sample size is not sufficient and we require minimum of 234 samples to achieve this confidence and this particular error of 1.5 km per hour. All right, so this is to summarize which have been given, all the statistics. All right, so let's conclude this session. So by the end of the session, I hope the students will be able to understand what are the needs for conducting traffic studies, how important is to perform traffic studies, and speed study, especially that was our major focus of today's class. So what is meant by speed studies, what is spot speed, why we are conducting spot speed studies, what are the likely objectives and applications of it, where it helps. Then we have discussed about what is the approach to be taken for conduction of spot speed, data collection practices, data representations and analysis, how do we interpret the results, and couple of numericals which we try to cover. All those we discussed in data analysis and results interpretation. I hope the session was meaningful to you. If you have any queries, please comment it. Thank you.